This is the Bosphorus. It is a hugely important trade route. It connects the Black Sea down to the Sea of Marmara, which in turn connects it to the Aegean, which in turn connects it to the Mediterranean. But it also splits Europe from Asia. And it also cuts straight through the city of Istanbul.
Istanbul is Turkey's most populous city. Also, Europe's most populous city. The second one is Moscow. 16 million people live here, and around quitting time every day, a lot of them hit the road and try to cross from Europe to Asia, or vice versa, through basically 2 or 3 choke points, which makes Istanbul the most congested city in the world. The second one is also Moscow. Sorry, Moscow, a day late and $1 short. We're number 1. But Istanbul isn't just home to ridiculous road traffic, it's also home to ridiculous maritime traffic. Anywhere between 40 to 50,000 ships pass through the strait annually, and they're able to pass completely for free. But ships aren't just able to pass through the Bosphorus Strait just because Turkey's feeling generous. The passage of ships through the Bosphorus is governed by the Montreux Convention. The 1936 Montreux Convention mandates that civilian ships pass through unhindered and uncharged, while it also places heavy restrictions on military ships, such as aircraft carriers or ships with guns larger than 8 inches. But what naval ship has massive guns anymore? Since the convention was signed in 1936, naturally, it is a little dated by now. For the most of the world, the UN Convention of the Law of the Sea has replaced existing conventions. But Turkey refuses to sign and therefore recognize the UN Convention because doing so would also mean that Turkey would recognize Greece's territorial boundaries at 12 nautical miles, which would effectively give Greece full authority over the Aegean Sea.
It's the Greek god, okay, Greek god.
And if you're not familiar with Greece-Turkey relations, Turkey isn't exactly down with that. So, Turkey can't sign the UN Convention, which means it can't actually charge money for the passages of ships, so Turkey leaves billions and billions of dollars on the table. Money it could really use, especially right now. Well, no problem, because we'll just dig another strait next to the old one. No, I'm serious, that's what we're doing. Welcome to Turkey. So, Turkey's solution is to build an entirely new canal that is technically not the Bosphorus, so the Montreux Convention technically doesn't apply. And I say Turkey, but this is really the Turkish president's brainchild, President Erdogan. President Erdogan wants to basically move 1 billion cubic meters of soil to create Istanbul Canal. Erdogan has been cooking this up at least since 2010. In 2010, the late columnist Hıncal Uluç found out about the project during a phone call with then Prime Minister Erdogan and wrote, "This is the most crazy project I've ever heard about Istanbul. If someone would have asked me to come up with 1,000 projects, it still wouldn't have crossed my mind. It's that crazy." So Erdogan wants to cut a new canal right next to the old one, which in theory would circumvent the Montreux Convention. So, a simulacra, if you will, an imitation of the old one. A newer, younger, slightly weirder, Wish.com version of the Bosphorus. But can Erdogan actually pull it off? So, Turkey is pretty big on construction. Turks love watching construction, Turks love investing in construction, but nobody loves construction quite like President Erdogan.
Yes.
During the 2000s, Turkey's economy experienced a boom unlike any other time in its history, with an average 7% annual growth rate. And what drove this economic expansion was construction. Those were Erdogan's glory days, and he has been trying to relive them ever since. And Erdogan loves mega projects. In the last decade, Turkey has built airports, tunnels, railways, highways, bridges, power plants, and pretty much entire cities all worth billions of dollars. But why would any ship use the new canal instead of the Bosphorus Strait if it means that it would have to pay for it? Well, because you can't just pass through the strait whenever you feel like it. At any given time, you can see dozens of ships waiting to traverse the strait. And in logistics, time is money. Turkey very carefully regulates the maritime traffic through the strait to assure that there are no collisions. And that is due to environmental concerns. The Bosphorus Strait is notoriously difficult to sail, and despite heavy precautions, ships sometimes veer off course. And considering that about 3 million barrels of oil are shipped through the Bosphorus every day, it poses a serious environmental threat. And that's the government's argument, not that it wants to circumvent the Montreux Convention, but wants to protect the environment. But how is that going to work? Because if you want to dig a 45-kilometer-long moat through one of the most populated cities in the world, there are going to be a few things in the way. So here are only a few problems with Erdogan's mega canal. First, according to a poll done by the municipality, 64% of Istanbulites don't want the canal. Now, it has to be said that the municipality is controlled by the opposition, which vehemently opposes the project. The opposition figurehead, Kemal Kılıçdaroğlu, went as far as to threaten any company that enters the tender with grave consequences, and that they will refuse payment to any country that is a party to the construction project when they take over in 2023. But despite the lack of popularity of the project, President Erdogan is bulldozing forward. In 2021, Erdogan said, "We are starting the project whether you like it or not." So yes, the opposition is the opposition. It opposes. That's what it does. But why do the residents of Istanbul stand against the project? Well, the canal has to go through settled areas. Upon its completion, the canal would wipe out at least 3 or perhaps more villages completely off the map. The villages of Durusu, Baklalı, and Dursunköy would be completely gone, and the residents are understandably upset. Furthermore, with this project, Istanbul will lose at least one of its sources of drinking water, and perhaps even more sources. Sazlıdere Lake will certainly be taken off the roster as a source of fresh water. But experts warn that when you introduce salt water into the mix, it will eventually contaminate the groundwater and surrounding water sources and render them undrinkable. So Istanbul could lose a significant portion of its drinking water. And to a city of 60 million, that is a big deal. But that's not just it. There's also the loss of wildlife. Erdogan's goal isn't only to cut a canal, but to create canal front prime real estate.
Yes.
No wonder construction companies from Saudi Arabia, UAE, and Qatar have been buying acres and acres of land adjacent to the project. And then there is the cost. The government says they're gonna bang this thing out for about 75 billion liras, which comes up to something a little less than $4 billion today. And if that sounds like they're lowballing it, you're not alone, because the Chamber of Mining Engineers calculates that digging, logistics, and storage costs alone would be about 69 billion liras, let alone the completion of the project itself. And in a time where Turkey has an average account deficit of about $48 billion, every penny is precious. So is Kanal Istanbul the future of Turkey's prosperity? Or is it an overpriced, poorly calculated environmental and financial disaster waiting to happen? Does it really make a lot of sense creating a whole new strait next to the Bosphorus? Well, President Erdogan surely thinks so. And in Turkey, that's enough. Yeah. Unless he loses the upcoming elections, then it's all up in the air. So, we'll see. Good night.